Downton is now being converted into a convalescent home for the soldiers. Crawleys can hardly recognize their home as it's filled with beds, tables, and screened-off rooms. The person prancing about the house giving instructions to the servants like it's her house is not Cora, but Isabel.
Who'll be in charge?
All I know is that she'll drive us mad before the end.
Isabel's need for absolute control is definitely getting on Cora's nerves. It's not just Cora who is upset over Isabel's hostile takeover of Downton Abbey, but it's also confusing for the servants because they don't know who to take orders from. One servant in particular, O'Brien, is not happy to see these new changes. O'Brien rightly feels that Cora is being bullied into a corner by Isabel, and so she suggests that Cora fight back by putting someone else in charge at Downton who is loyal to them.
But who? What about Thomas, milady?
Thomas is actually a fairly good candidate. He has medical training and is a corporal, so Cora has Dr. Clarkson put Thomas in charge of taking care of the house. Dr. Clarkson is really the manager at Downton as a convalescent home because, he's a doctor and all that, but since he's also supposed to be in charge of the hospital, he cannot stay full-time, and that is why they need someone with medical training to stay permanently in Downton to take care of the soldiers. Isabel is supposed to be that person, but given her bossy, overly controlling ways is what's prompted the decision to get Thomas over there. This is an obvious snub to Isabel, and she can see it clearly. Thomas is even raised from corporal to acting sergeant for this role, so that should tell you how much Cora does not want Isabel around. Downstairs, it's been some time since Bates and Anna have seen each other, ever since his wife dragged him by his cane out of Downton Abbey to London. So, it's a complete shock to Anna when she thinks she saw Bates in the village. Mary offers to help her to find if it was really Bates, and a few days later she says yes, that it was indeed Bates that she saw in the village, and he's working in a pub. Anna is curious and longing to see Bates, so she makes a journey to see him, and his reaction, I don't know how to describe it. He's happy to see her, but also feeling guilty he didn't get in touch with her sooner. I really can't tell. So, why is Bates here? He explains that he's found that Vera was cheating on him, and now he finally has grounds to divorce her. He's come to Downton as a way of showing that her cheating has broken up the marriage and to be closer to Anna. And that was why she caught Bates in the first place, because he wanted a glimpse of her or whatever. Anna is happy that Bates is back, and now they're back together. Back in episode 2 of this season, Rosamund accidentally walks in on what looks like Carlisle threatening Lavinia.
How dare you threaten me?
How dare I?
Mary does not think much of it, but Rosamund and Violet see it as an opportunity to take Lavinia down. So Matthew ditches her and goes back to Mary. They start ramping up the pressure on her, but Lavinia does not budge. Rosamund changes tactics and starts using her contacts to dig up dirt on Lavinia, and they land on something huge. According to Rosamund's findings, Lavinia was responsible for the Marconi scandal. If you're like me, you probably don't know what the Marconi scandal even was. It was a scandal that involved people in really high positions in the government who used insider information to buy shares before they went public. Lavinia stole the evidence from her uncle Jonathan Swire, who was also guilty, and gave it to Sir Richard to publish. I honestly don't see why this is a bad thing. I mean, it's not Lavinia who was guilty of insider trading. The reason why Lavinia even did this in the first place
Because, they were lovers. Exactly.
was to save her father. He owed a lot of money to Carlisle, and he offered to waive the debts if Lavinia got the information. Violet and Rosamund tell Mary that it's up to her to decide if she wants to snitch on Lavinia to Matthew, but considering Lavinia's motives, Mary decides to keep the secret to herself. The soldiers finally move into Downton. Wait, did I say that they moved in now? Yup, that's right. So this whole thing of Isabel being so annoying was even before the soldiers arrived, so I presume you guys can see how much more annoying Isabel is going to get. Initially, it was only Cora who was upset with Isabel for taking over everything, but now Robert is also miffed at her. These two continue to beat each other's throats, and when a general of Matthews, Sir Herbert Strutt, decides to visit Downton, they both try hard to look like the only person in charge. Branson is called up for the war, and boy, he is excited. He wants to use this opportunity to be a conscientious objector to the war. He goes for his medical and he gets rejected. Branson is upset that his plans are spoiled, and when he looks around he realizes that in life, when a door is closed, a window is opened. On hearing the news of Herbert Strutt coming to Downton, he asks Mr. Carson if he could serve as a footman, and Carson is happy to take him up on his offer. Branson prepares a pot of slop to pour on the general to humiliate him, but he's stopped before his plans come to fruition. Branson isn't the only one upset with the general's presence in Downton though. Mr. Lang, who hasn't recovered from his shell shock, loses his composure in front of the general.
I don't have to go back with them, do I? Because I can't.
And even starts having night terrors.
Mr. Khan! It's as soon as I can! I can't go back, no matter what. No.
Lang can see the trouble he's causing the family and he decides to leave Downton on his own accord. It's 1918 now, so it's been a year since Downton's conversion into a convalescence home. I guess one whole year of working with Isabel has finally gotten to Cora, and she decides to coo Isabel's ass out of Downton. She starts with having the servants' lunchtime changed, then the soldiers' lunchtime, the nurse's shift, basically altering everything that Isabel has made. It's actually a miracle that Isabel even lasted that long in Downton. If I were Cora, I would have booted her out a long time ago. And I will forever be amazed by how Isabel cannot see that her own actions is what's caused all of this. Isabel confronts Cora and it goes something like this. You could leave if you don't like. I will leave. I mean it. Please say you want me to stay. The door's there. Isabel finally wraps her thick head around the fact that Cora does not want her and decides to pack it up and leave to France. She'd gotten a letter from her cousin asking her if she would like to work with the Wounded and Missing Inquiry Department under the aegis of the Red Cross in Paris. She says her goodbyes to her servants and Dr. Clarkson and heads off. Sir Richard had proposed to Mary, asking her to marry him, and she decides to accept his offer despite being in love with Matthew. Violet is disappointed in Mary's choice, especially after the whole Lavinia thing. Speaking of fiancés and crushes, Edith was into Stralin, Mary had Matthew, and the only person who's never brought up a man she's interested in is Sybil. Violet tells Mary to look out for Sybil from forming any inappropriate friendship. Just as Mary is coming back from having this conversation with Violet, she sees Sybil and Branson together. A few episodes back, Dom confesses to Sybil that he loves her and wanted to run away and marry her. Sybil isn't even sure what she thinks of Branson, but she doesn't turn him down either. Mary and Sybil fess up about her and Branson, and while Mary does not encourage the idea of her and Tom, she does not give away her sister under the condition that she does not do anything stupid with Branson, and she agrees. Thomas finds out about Bates working in a pub, and Daisy overhears him talking about this to O'Brien, and in usual Daisy fashion, she ends up spilling the beans, and the whole downstairs staff and Robert both find out about Bates. Anna tells Robert that she's been off to see Bates, and when he asks why Bates hasn't come back to Downton to take his old job, Anna explains that Bates feels uneasy about working for Robert because they had parted on bad terms. If you remember, Bates sprang the news of him leaving on Robert without any warning, and Robert is very hurt and said some very hurtful things to Bates. Robert later finds out the real reason why Bates left thanks to Mrs. Hughes overhearing Bates and his wife, and feels guilty about the way he spoke to Bates, and meets him at the pub to apologize and asks him to come back, which Bates gladly accepts. Ethel, the extremely ambitiously unambitious housemaid, sees an opportunity to hang out with the officers in the house and starts cozying up with a certain Major Bryant. Things devolve when she's caught jumping bones with the Major by Mrs. Hughes and she's fired on the spot.
I didn't think I would.
No, and that's the problem. You never do.
Sometime later, Ethel shows up at Downton after being fired because she's pregnant. For a person who lives in a time where unwed mothers were looked down on, and also being someone who wants to be super successful, Ethel has committed career suicide. I'll expand on this in the review. Matthew and William are on patrol and they go missing. At first, nobody upstairs takes note because they assume that Matthew must have gone to see Isabel in Paris, but after learning that William was planning to come back to Downton, they inquire and they learn that they both are missing. Everybody at home is worried sick about Matthew, and in one of the most beautiful scenes in Downton, Matthew and William show up unharmed. Seriously, this was such a good scene. Turns out that they were lost and were trapped behind some Germans for days, and after escaping they were found by British soldiers and were returned completely unharmed, so yay, I guess. This was a very poor decision for Ethel to have made, especially considering the time period she lived in. If only she had been a little smarter. Ethel wanted to become some sort of a star, and now all those dreams have come crashing down. This was not a time where people were especially sympathetic to single mothers who bore children out of wedlock. Ethel is an incredibly naive character. She wants the best in life but does absolutely nothing to get her where she needs to go. Compare her character to Gwen. Gwen also wanted better things in life, so she actually learned a skill that would be useful to her instead of talking everyone's ear off about the crazy things that she was planning to do after leaving service. Don't think I don't blame Brian though, of course I do. He knew exactly what he was doing with her and how this could send her down to a life of misery, but he did not give a f. They both have done something foolish, but considering the world they live in, Ethel is going to have to face the music all by herself. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more videos. Check out my other videos if you haven't already. Thanks for watching.